Support comes from the Wiregrass Archives at Troy University's Dothan campus, identifying and preserving historical documents and photographs for research related to the Wiregrass region. More information at troy.edu/wiregrassarchives.
From Troy Public Radio, this is the Newswrap from In Focus, and I'm Carolyn Hutchison. Todd Stacy, host of Alabama Public Television's Capitol Journal, reviews the results of the primary election races, and the Wildcard rules the San Francisco dock. Todd, welcome back to the Newswrap from Capitol Journal.
Good to be with you.
The big topic must be the election results.
Yeah, elections were on Tuesday. This is a primary election. It's called a midterm because it's in the middle of the president's term. But for Alabama, we're electing everything from governor, lieutenant governor, AG, all down the ballot. At the top of the ticket this time was the Senate race. There's an open Senate seat because Tommy Tuberville has decided not to run again for Senate, but instead run for governor. So that opened up his Senate seat. And that was really the biggest race on the ballot. Right now, on the Republican side, Barry Moore led the race with about 39% of the vote. And Jared Hudson and Steve Marshall were very close, but Jared Hudson made it into the runoff. So those two are going to be vying for the Republican nomination. Another big race people have been following is this race for Attorney General. It's going to go to a runoff as well. Catherine Robertson won about 40% of the vote. Jay Mitchell won about 34% of the votes. They will now go to a runoff. Also for lieutenant governor, going to a runoff between John Wall and Wes Allen. Those were somewhat predictable. So was the top of the ticket with the governor's race. Hardly any contest for Tommy Tuberville. He ended up getting 85% of the vote. Same thing for Doug Jones on the Democratic side. He got 78% of the vote. So those two are going to meet each other in November in the general election. And that'll be a rematch of the Senate campaign back in 2020. So a big election Tuesday. But if you want to read about all of it, you can go to aldailynews.com. And of course, we're going to be talking about all of these races and more on Capitol Journal this week.
Todd, what happened with the vote for Constitutional Amendment number 1?
Constitutional amendments. These are things the legislature passes that actually go to the ballot for Alabamians to vote on. And so 2 amendments were passed this time. But the big one was an expansion, really, of Aniah's law. People are familiar with Aniah Blanchard, the young college student who was murdered by someone who was out on bail for a violent crime. And so the state adopted a constitutional amendment about 4 years ago, allowing judges to deny bail for those accused of violent crimes. And what this would do is add more crimes to that. First-degree rape, kidnapping, burglary, domestic violence. Any of those crimes to be accused of, a judge can say, you're denied bail because we don't want you out on the street. And so that did pass overwhelmingly. 81% of voters gave that approval.
Well, Todd, it's time to lighten up with a wild card. What have you found?
Well, this one comes on the dock of the bay out in San Francisco, where down by the wharf, they have a bunch of sea lions that like to get up on the dock and sun and eat fish and mess with all the tourists and everything. And there's it's kind of a king lion, a stellar sea lion, 2,000-pound sea lion named Chonkers. And he's just become this local celebrity there on San Francisco Bay where tourists will line up to try to get his picture. He's drawing a big social media presence, but it's Chonkers the sea lion that has folks really enjoying their time on the dock of the bay.
He owns that dock. Well, Todd, who's on Capitol Journal?
Going to be talking with House Speaker Nathaniel Ledbetter. Every member of the legislature was on the ballot as well. So we'll be talking a lot about that. Also going to be talking to my colleagues, Randy Scott and Jeff Sanders, about their perspectives on some of these races that have just happened. 7:30 tonight on Alabama Public Television.
Also Sunday at noon and on YouTube. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
That was Todd Stacy, host of Alabama Public Television's Capitol Journal. More information can be found at the website aptv.org. Thanks for joining us for the Newswrap from In Focus, which is a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Carolyn Hutchison, and this is listener-supported Troy Public Radio.